The gentleman from California, Mr. Rohrabacher, the vice chairman of the committee, is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. When I first heard about this concept of the flyby with Mars, a human flyby, it was presented to me by a man who I deeply admire, Dennis Tito, who is a man who has inspired many, many Americans with what his own courage and his own vision accomplished years ago, and over the years has been very, very creative in his approaches to space. But when it was first, and I boiled on it, it was a great idea, but his proposal to me was, and to us, was a project that was fully funded by the private sector. And now, all of a sudden, it's not funded by the private sector anymore. It's the same mission, but now it's going to come out of the public sector money. And while I thought it was a great idea if people were willing to take the risks and spend the money in the private sector, I think this is a foolhardy use of very limited government resources as compared to if private people want to put their money up. General Lyles, good to see you again, sir. Always great to see you. And you talked about 35 years in Air Force and how you understood high risk that is associated with various projects. There is a very high risk associated with this, is there not?
Congressman, yes, there is. Whether you're talking the technology itself or even from a policy perspective, and certainly the funding aspect of it.
Both the technology end of it, both the funding end of it, and both the actual accomplishing the mission is just, there's many, many risks, a lot more risks than other things that we might accomplish in space with the limited dollars that we have if we expended those dollars toward those other goals. Isn't that the case?
Congressman, I would not disagree with that, but I think that's one of the reasons why I think it's very important to look at how that particular idea, a Mars flyby, could be linked to other things that we're already doing. The program that we're currently embarked upon, whether you call it asteroid retrieval or whatever the right title is, there are aspects of the technology we're developing for the current program, obviously SLS, Orion, that could be applied to a mission such as a flyby. I'm not quoting a specific time,
right.
So I think it could be linked to other things.
Well, but that's just with a space launch system. It can do other things. General, when we're talking about the risk, what would you say? Would you, if you had to put your own money into this, let's say you had to bet your mortgage money, would you bet your mortgage money on the success of this mission?
Congressman, my money wouldn't get us very far, probably at all. But the answer is right now, in terms of a vision, innovative idea, I like it. In terms of understanding all the risks, I would be reluctant to put my own money into that until I better understood what all the challenges are.
Well, thank you very much for being very frank with us on that. And Dr. Pace, you just mentioned the cooperative efforts, how important that is, and for all of nations to participate. Are there any other nations involved with putting money into this project?
Nope.
Okay,
And
that's it. Thank you. I appreciate that. There is no. That's
could I-
correct. There are not. And
could I
yes,
add one?
Yes.
There were initial conversations on the possibility of contribution of the habitat structure. I mean, obviously, all those kind of things have to play their course, but there have been some initial discussions internationally. There
are some discussions. All right. When we go from some discussions to actually commitments, so there's a lot of space between those two. Now, let us note that this is a mission that has to be accomplished in 7 years. I mean, we have to do this within that 7-year period. All of these factors have to be together, and then the technology has to work. And I think, isn't this mission the very first mission that a SLS is going to have, and it's got to happen within that 7-year period. Would you like to give us your estimate as to a guesstimate as what the chances of, I mean, you've followed space programs. How many have really met their deadline in the last few years? Yes.
I'm sorry, I wasn't where you were addressing it. Well, I think, again, if we really wanted to do this and we committed to do it, we could do it, but that means it has to be fully resourced with the appropriate manpower and money and everything else.
The essential word, the most important word you used, and you used when you testified, was the word can and could.
Yeah.
That's a lot different than will.
Exactly.
And the fact is that, do you really see that right now that there's a commitment in this country so that we don't start a butt down this trail, spending a lot of money, and then at the end of the trail, not have accomplished the mission because the will wasn't there?
Yeah, that's the big problem. We don't have a really strong commitment for a long-term vision for our space program.
So we don't have it now, but we should move forward on this, even though we don't have that will now.
If you recall in my testimony, I commented that any mission that we do, whether it's a lunar mission or an asteroid mission or the Mars flyby, all needs to be in a larger context of what are we trying to do long-term as a country in space, and we need to make that plan.
The gentleman's time has long since expired.
The gentleman, just 10 seconds, and that is just to say there are many great space projects that we need to fund. There are many of them, and this,
Thank you, Mr.
not funding this
Rohrabacher.
would mean not that we're retreating from space.